Right.
My first trip here, someone called me Junkie, and I was like, what? Like, wow, Argentinians really just make up nicknames for people that are really rude. Like, I thought it was, like calling someone Gorda or, something. And I was like, oh no, my nickname is Junkie. But then someone explained to me, no, that's in Córdoba.
When we talk about immigrants and numbers, we stop seeing people. But when we put faces to the stories, we can finally feel.
Hi, Kate. Thank you for being on my podcast. I have a first question for you. You went from being an American to filming a movie in Córdoba. How did that happen?
Okay, it's a crazy story, and I actually just found out exactly the steps that got me there. But yeah, so I'm from the US. I'm living in Córdoba, specifically Cosquín. I live right next to the plaza where they have the folklore festival every January. And so here's what happened. The tourism department, Turismo Cosquín, said, hey, we know you're living here. We know you're a dancer. If you make a video about your experience going to the festival, we will, promote the video. We will share it on our platforms. So what happened is there's also a film festival in Cosquín, and the woman who created that film festival saw my video from the Cosquín Folklore Festival. She knows that she had a friend who was making a movie about the humor of the people from Córdoba, and she knew that they were looking for a foreigner, an immigrant, an extranjera, to have, a view from the outside of Córdoba to understand Cordobians. And she recommended me because of the Cosquín connection. And yeah, we started filming just a couple of months ago, and it has been really exciting. And it's been really good for my Castellano, my Spanish, because I'm speaking to so many people all the time. I'm having to memorize the script. I'm having to improvise with comedians that we talk to. And it's been fun. And it was also a little bit scary because I told them, I feel confident in my Spanish, but I don't know if I feel confident to be filming something, be on a camera, be perfect all the time. And they said, no, it's perfect because it's your reality. It's okay if you mess up, because we wanted someone from outside of Córdoba to come into Córdoba and try to understand what are these crazy Cordobeses doing. So they said, just be you, just be truthful to yourself. And that's what we want. So it's been a crazy experience, but so fun.
Wow. One thing is that, speaking Spanish, but another thing is like knowing the culture and understanding jokes. You say comedians. So if you're working with comedians, I mean, I don't know. I mean, as someone that speaks another language, it took me a long time before I could understand American comedy, right? Or even songs, they have a slang in it. So I bet, of course, it's gonna be scary, right? So I think I would be impressed if you were not, but facing it, it was incredible. I'm glad you did.
Thank you. Yeah, there are certain comedians in the movie that when this comes out in October, you will see, I don't understand anything they're saying to me because they are just throwing like Cordobian slang and jokes at me and, inside jokes that only Cordobians understand. And I just probably have a blank face, but that is part of the humor of it. That's what makes the people from this province so funny, is they just talk and and make jokes, and they laugh. So
what a bless, I think. You go into a new country and then this happened to you. It's It's amazing. Like amazing. I don't know
Well,
how many people can say that happened to me, you know?
well, thank you. And I have to say too, it also feels so amazing to know that the people of Córdoba, the people of Argentina, but especially the people of Córdoba, welcomed me. You know, they didn't care that I wasn't from here. My Spanish isn't always perfect, but they have given me the warmest welcome. You know, here in Cosquín, I go to the store. I have trouble with a word or two sometimes, and the people are so patient, and they just say, "Hey, like, thank you for trying. We're so happy that you're here." And it's been an amazing, warm welcome that I think only Argentina can give someone.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
incredible. As in Argentina, I'm proud of that, you know?
Yeah, you should be. You should be. I think your people are one of a kind. Some of the most
Wow.
loving people I've met.
Thanks. You know, I have a lot of friends here. Yes, in Argentina, I have a lot of American friends. I love everybody. You know,
Yeah.
I love people. You know, you always got some of those people that take things to a different extreme. And Argentina has them too, where they don't like anybody. But most people
Sure.
are in their world. They're great. They're just like other people, and they have
Yeah.
curiosity. They want to know about you. Like, well, this
Yeah.
is a foreign. You speak a different language. I want to
Yeah.
know how their life is and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
awesome.
I've seen that friendships are in Argentina, they are just as important as your family is. Like your
Yes.
friends are your family here. And the way that I have become part of people's family here, just instantly, they just accepted me. They invite me to Asados on Sundays. I spend the whole day with them. It's just amazing. And it's something that I didn't find in my culture growing up. Obviously, I love my family. I love my friends, but it's just closer here. It's just more immediately accepting of the people around you here.
Was that a cultural shock for you? Like, was it easy to adapt to that? You know?
Yeah, there are certain things that, you know, in the US, we have more of an individualized culture. You know, it's not, how do I say this? In contrast, here in Argentina, people will just show up at your door and say, "Hey, I've got mate. Let's go to the river. Let's go to the park. Let's hang out." And you're like, "Yeah, okay, let's do it." It's just so relaxed, and it's not uncommon for people to say, "Hey, we're going, you know, to a bar right now. Come with us." Whereas in the US, you have to say like, "Hey, next Friday at 6:00, are you free to do this thing?" And you say, "I don't know. Let me look at my calendar. Yes, I can be free at that time." And, you know, but here in Argentina, it's just like, it's just more open. It's more spontaneous. It's more like, everybody come along. Let's do it. I wouldn't say it was a bad culture shock by any means. It was more of like oh, yeah, like these people love me immediately and I love them immediately. So it was more of just a nice culture shock.
And the long hours gathering also way different because it's not just we are different how we invite people, you know, but we also the gatherings are long and
all day.
but we're okay to be with people long hours, but in the US people get overwhelmed and they go home, you know.
Yeah, I mean, in the US, all the bars close at 2 a.m.
Absolutely.
But here in Argentina, you don't even leave your house to go out until 2 a.m. sometimes. You know,
the best place, I don't know if you're familiar with, I don't know if you've ever been, but have you I'm in Louisiana, right?
Oh yeah.
And the best place, the place that I found the closest to Argentinians in the US is Louisiana.
It really?
Louisiana. The Cajun culture, the Louisiana life is we're not the same, but I say it's pretty close.
Yeah. Louisianans are very relaxed, very go with
Friendly.
the flow. Yeah, I can totally see that.
The gatherings are very they always partying, they always going out. They don't party until 6 a.m, but they do a lot of crazy stuff, man. I love Louisiana. I love the culture here. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and New Orleans is the home of Mardi Gras. You know, when you think of Mardi Gras in the U.S., you think of New Orleans. And if that's not Argentinian Carnival, I don't know what is. Yeah.
I was telling people that here we have it in Argentina too. It's not as fancy as the Louisiana. Well, it depends where in Argentina, because you go to Misiones,
Yeah.
the carnivals are fancy, kind of like the Brazilian. But in Lafayette, they have all these, all this stuff, fancy. How they call it here? Floats. They call them floats.
Yeah, the floats.
They have all the floats, and I did 2 or 3 floats since I've been here.
Really?
Oh yeah, I had some crazy times over here. I love, as an Argentinian, I love Lafayette. I'm in Lafayette. I'm not in New Orleans, but beautiful people here.
And where in Argentina are you from?
I'm from Buenos Aires, south of Buenos Aires.
Okay.
Yeah. I passed through Córdoba, and on my last visit to Argentina, I was at the airport. But Cordobés people from Córdoba have a complete different accent than Porteños from Buenos Aires. And they're super funny.
I know.
Super funny.
They're constantly here making like plays on words. Like they'll switch around the letters and the words. I don't know if that's a Porteño thing too, but they're just always making jokes with the words and shortening words. Like Fernet is Fernet. Like they're just, they just throw the words away completely.
Right. And they speak like if they're singing. When they're speaking, almost like they're singing. They have like a singing sound. Like they're singing instead of talking. Porteños are way different. We have a complete different accent.
Yeah.
We also change words and stuff like that, like they do. But they just they're different. They have their own culture. So they're fun. So, Kate, tell me about your life in the U.S., right? You were, who was Kate before going to Argentina?
Yeah. Well, so I am a dancer. That's what I went to university for. I lived in New York for 9 years, working and auditioning as a dancer. And the way I ended up in Argentina was not planned. I started working on cruise ships as a dancer and immediately became friends with the Argentinians who worked on board. There are so many incredible musicians from Argentina who are working on the cruise ships, because it's a great way to be a working musician. Go work on the cruise ships. You can save all of your money. You can travel the world. You meet people. And so every day in the mess hall, the crew mess, I would sit with the Argentinians. And that's actually how I got the name Catalina first, was from the lunch table with the Argentinians on the cruise ship. And so I worked on cruises for a few years and really got serious about learning Spanish at that time because of the amazing people I met. And my first trip to Argentina to visit some of my friends was in 2023. And I just fell in love with it. So I visited probably 5 times. And then last year in 2025, I decided, why not? Let's go try living there for a little bit.
Right. What was your impression your first time in Argentina, right? Because I tell a quick story. There was an Argentinian restaurant in the United States, and it was a new restaurant, and they had a customer come in, and they left offended. And this is a story that the owner told me, because they couldn't find taco or burrito. But like we're Argentinians, right? So what was did you thought that Argentina was going to be like any other Spanish country, or what was your shock?
Yeah, I do think one fault that people from the US have is they assume that all of South America is like Mexico.
Right.
I won't say I was that bad, but I didn't really know much about Argentina. I didn't know that it goes as far south as to almost touch Antarctica. I didn't know, that you can whale watch from Argentina, that you can see the penguins in Argentina. I didn't know, the rich culture here. I just didn't know very much about it. And I do think the biggest shock was just the accent, was realizing not only that Argentina has several different accents within it. All of South America has very different identities, and
Yeah.
everybody has really strong opinions about each other, and
Yeah.
there's rivalries and there's friendships between the countries here. And so I think I have to say that something I learned working on the cruise ships was that, I hate to admit it, but people in the US have a very closed-minded view of the world. The US is so big, we kind of have like a view of like, we have everything we need. We are the center of the universe. I hope I'm not that bad, but I did learn a lot about myself and learn about the way that I viewed the world and the way that I didn't really think about other places in the world. So I think it was a really good learning experience for me. And I tell everyone from the US, you have to start traveling. You have to start getting outside of your bubble, because it's, the pride for your country is great, but you've got to learn that there's more out there. There are other cultures, other religions, other foods out there. And that's my biggest takeaway from my time traveling on the cruise ships and coming to Argentina.
Absolutely. I agree with you
Mhm.
100%,
Yeah.
But, in the United States, they have so much here
Mhm.
that, to a certain extent, Argentinians were very similar, because it's a big country. You have so many
Yeah.
places to go visit, right?
Mhm.
I think maybe in the past 20 years, I would say it could be wrong when we start actually getting out of Argentina more.
Yeah.
And most of our immigration was from Europe coming in,
True.
and
Mhm.
nearby countries did
Mhm.
not have that many Americans coming to the United States, to Argentina, sorry. And then,
Yeah.
but now lately with all this communication, all the
Mhm.
social media, there's a lot of Americans going there now.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, there's so many specifically people from the US coming here and making videos on social media about their experiences here. Um and it's really fun to see like everybody learning about each other, and the videos that the people from the US make here are always very kind and very like, hey, I just learned this thing and I want to show all my family back home. Like, look at how fun, these Argentinians are. Look how similar we are. Look how different we are. And I think it's a really fun time to be in Argentina, like you say.
That's great. I love to hear that.
Hmm.
So, uh, anyway, so you say you were, so you were a dancer, then you end up
Hmm.
in the ship. So the only country that you visited was Argentina. Or there's other countries that you stop along the way.
I mean, on the cruise ship, I visited so many countries. And I got to experience, just little bits of the countries,
Yeah.
because the cruise ships go to one country for a day and then you go to another country the next day. So it was amazing, but you didn't really get the chance to learn the culture, learn the language, soak it all in. So when I decided to come here, I decided I want this to be for a long time. I want to really learn about everything this country has to offer. And I've been here, 6 months, and I feel like I've only seen this much of, of Argentina. I
Oh,
want to
yeah.
travel to the north. I want to travel to the south. I'm going to Mendoza this weekend.
Oh,
Um,
wonderful.
I'm so excited. I've been wanting to go since my first trip here in 2023. I've been asking to go to Mendoza, and it finally worked out. So for the long weekend, I'll be there.
Where are you from in the U.S.?
Originally, I'm from Oklahoma,
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma City. But like I said, I lived in New York City for almost 10 years. Um, but another reason I think Córdoba resonates with me so much, and I've heard this from other people who have like Argentinians living in the US and vice versa, is that something about Córdoba is very reminiscent of the Oklahoma and Texas culture.
Really?
Um, yeah, and it might be hard to explain it if you aren't from either of those places, but I really agree. I really think Córdoba Capital gives energy of some of the bigger cities in Texas. Like Austin is, it's the live music capital of the U.S., and it's kind of strange and fun and silly. And I feel like Oklahoma City, where I'm from, is sort of like a little version of Austin, Texas. And I just feel very at home here,
Wow.
even though Cordoba is obviously different. I see a lot of similarities here.
There's a big migration in Cordoba, especially from Europe too. There's a lot of Europeans going over there, especially from Russia and Ukraine. A lot of them are going over there.
Well, and
now
we've got
the
university here, the La Docta University in Córdoba Capital. So there's a lot of international students.
Wow.
Here. Yeah.
Interesting. That's great. You got me thinking about Oklahoma now, because I've never been. Now I'm gonna have to go and visit Oklahoma. But you know what I asked you where you were from in the US originally, because I didn't get your New Yorker accent. So I'm thinking, okay, she must be from another place. You know?
Yeah. I definitely don't have that hard, like, Italian American New Yorker accent. I don't have that. But I also don't really have an accent typical of Oklahoma either. But it is interesting, I think, in the U.S. I've talked to a lot of people about this. You see the younger generations are starting to lose their accents, their regional accents. It's because of TV and movies. The younger generations are starting to all have the same accent, no matter where you are from the U.S. So it's kind of sad a little bit to me that we're, I guess, neutralizing our accents a bit. Because, here in Argentina, someone can say one word and you're like, oh, I think they're from the north, they're from Jujuy or something. Or, oh, that's a Porteño right there. Or like, that's a Cordobés, I think that's really cool. And that we're starting to lose that in the U.S. a little bit.
Well, surprisingly, in Argentina, the same thing. So as you get maybe more fluency in Spanish, you will notice how, if you could watch videos of Argentinians speaking in the 70s or the 60s or the 80s, it's completely different. Now it's like there's a new slang. The tonation change, right? We used to, and a lot of Argentinians get upset when I say, Argentinians sound like Italian, because Cordobans don't sound like Italians. They have completely different accent. And in other states or provinces in Argentina have different accents. So in Buenos Aires is where people sound like Italian, and that's going away. That's barely, is completely blended. It's like gone. But it's crazy, and with social media, it's even getting worse.
Yeah, I think that's probably a big part of it, because we're all watching the same TV, we're all watching the same TikToks, and it is kind of sad. Because also one of my favorite things about people from South America is they can hear someone else and say, oh, that's a Colombian immediately, or like, oh, that person is from Chile. And to me, that's so amazing. It's the same as people from England. You can say, oh, they're from this city in England. They're from this city. But we're starting to lose that, I think, in general. I love in South America how somebody can talk and everybody else in South America can say like, oh, that's a Colombian, or, oh, they're from Chile. To me, that's amazing. Like, for example, the accent between Canada and the US is so similar that it's kind of hard to tell the difference. So I love that there's still that identity here in South America with the accents. But you're right, it is starting to go away because of social media, TV, movies.
Right. And I think, like, if I'm in Europe and there's an Argentinian within and a group of 10, 20 people, I would be able to, I would know.
Yeah.
If the
Yeah.
person is not talking, just by moving, body language, I would
Yeah.
know. I would know.
Yeah.
So
I
that's,
love
I
that.
mean, at least with Argentina, I don't know if other people can do
Mhm.
the same. I don't know if you can do that with Americans, but I can do it with Argentinian. I would know whether they are or not.
I love that. I love that. I love that there is such a strong identity with Argentinians. Like, even though the country is so big and there's so many different types of people here, there is such a strong unity here with the
Right.
people. I love it.
I know we talk about cultural shock and stuff, but I want to
Yeah.
know, and you share some other stuff with me, but I want to know what was your biggest cultural shock in Argentina? What was the one thing that was like, whoa, you know?
Yeah. I think in general, the relaxed nature of everything here, like I said, with hanging out with your friends, but also if people say, hey, I'm going to have a dinner at 9:00, you don't show up at 9:00. You show up at 9:30 and you plan to stay for hours. You shouldn't make plans for after that party because you're going to just relax and hang out with your friends. And there have been a lot of times where, even though in the US, I'm very much a relaxed personality type, here in Argentina, I'm not as relaxed in comparison. So I want to know what the plan is. I want to know what time we're getting somewhere. I want to know what time, the hangout is. And I just have to relax and just follow along, and when we get there, we get there. So that's been the hardest thing for me to let go of, but I also think it's really good for me. It's really good to just breathe and relax and enjoy the time,
Right,
you know?
right.
Mhm.
But them not being in time is something, I'm used to the US now, so I would get annoying too if I go back to
Yeah.
Argentina.
Yeah.
It would bother
Yeah.
me. And, every culture has the good and the bad, and I'm not proud of that one.
Mhm.
We don't have, we never on a schedule. We show up,
Yeah.
we say we're going to be there at 9 and they show up at 12. Uh,
Yeah.
it's pretty
Even
annoying, I will say. But, for someone that never experienced that, is good. You get good
yeah.
experience.
Yeah.
Now, the long hours, the long gathering,
Mhm.
that all depends what people like. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think I just had to learn to prepare myself that a dinner that starts at 9:00 might go until 4:00 in the morning, and that's totally fine. And I need to, take a mate before, drink some coffee before, so that I'm ready to stay
Right,
awake for the whole dinner. Yeah.
right, right. So I have another question for you, which is
Mhm.
very controversial right now. Do you consider yourself an expat or an immigrant?
That is a great question. And I've seen a lot of people talking about that online, because when people come to the US from other countries, we call them immigrants. But
Right,
when we from the US go somewhere else, we get to call ourselves expats, expatriates. So I don't know. Obviously, the term expat is really fun. It's fun to say that word. But I do recognize that it's not equal,
right,
that we get to call ourselves that, but we call other people immigrants when they come to our country. Um, so honestly, I just avoid the subject and I use the word extranjera. I just
right,
say,
right,
soy extranjera.
right,
But I totally understand why it's controversial. And it's the same reason, too, why I stopped calling myself American, because people here pointed out to me that technically they are Americans, too, South Americans.
right,
And I thought, you know what, that's such an easy thing for me to fix. It's literally just one extra word. I can say I'm United Statesian or I'm from the US.
right,
I don't have to call myself American if it shows that much more respect to the people who have welcomed me into their country.
right. I have my opinion on that because it is the United States of America. So because America is in the name of your country, you can call yourself American. I don't think in the English language it would sound appropriate to say, "Oh, I'm United States," or I mean, what are you gonna call yourself? Off? I'm off, because you gotta use something. So you cannot use United States. You cannot use the word off because it's just two letters. So America is the thing to say. What is important is that American probably understand that American. I will say all Americans. I'm not generalizing, but when you hear some other Americans talking someone on the news, it's like they should know that America is a continent that is divided in Central, South, and North. And we all Americans. But to me, Americans should call themselves American because what are the name? They're gonna call themselves.
Yeah. We don't, in English, we don't have the word. I said United Statesian, but that's not a real word.
No.
Like I just kind of made that up. And so that is what's difficult about it. We don't have a word like that. So it is difficult. I have to say, oh, I am from the United States. I can't just say I am
You could say, for example, in Spanish, you can say I am from Estados Unidos, and it sounds good because it's another language.
Yeah, I can say I'm estadounidense.
Yeah.
Like that's one term, but we don't have that in English.
Right.
So it makes it harder.
That's the thing. So that's the problem. The people in Argentina are thinking in Spanish. You don't speak English, so you can't understand the difference.
Yeah.
So that's why I like to ask these questions, because it's interesting and it's about educating people. I don't debate people. People can believe whatever they want. That's not my job. I just like to share stories, opinion.
Yeah. You know what, though? You just reminded me something that was a culture shock was the fact that Argentinians are not afraid to share their opinions about things.
Nope.
And they're not afraid to debate. Like politics, that's totally fine to talk about because you can have that debate and then you can still respect each other after the dinner is over, after you've had a very heated debate sometimes. Like I've seen some dinners turn to politics and, guys are standing up and yelling and doing all the Argentinian hand symbols. And then they're buddies afterwards. Like, it's like nothing happened.
Right.
But at least in my culture, being a white person from the U.S., that's not something we do. We don't yell about politics at the table. That would be like, oh no, the family's breaking up. But here you can yell at someone and it's not always angry.
Right.
It can be just passion, it's different. And I had to learn, like, oh, those people are yelling, but they're not really mad at each other.
Right.
They're just passionate. Yeah.
And we're very direct. So I watched, there's a video that I watched where you talk about one of your social media videos that you also, it shocked you when people call you Shanki. Right?
Yes, and it's not because of the word Yankee.
Right.
It's because here in Córdoba, sometimes that Y sound can be a really hard J sound, which a lot of people fought me in the comments, and they were like, no, it's like Shanki. But in Córdoba, I have heard a very hard J sound. So it sounds like junkie or junkie. And in English, junkie is someone who, abuses drugs. So my first trip here, someone called me junkie. And I was like, what? like, wow, Argentinians really just make up nicknames for people that are really rude. Like, I thought it was, like calling someone Gordo or, something. And I was like, oh no, my nickname is Junkie. But then someone explained to me, no, that's in Córdoba, that's how they sometimes pronounce the Y sound more like a J.
Right.
Right. But the nicknames, but I think that's a Latin thing too, calling, if you hear a couple in the grocery store calling each other Gordo, to my English ears, I'm like, why are you calling the person you love, hey, fatty?
Right.
But they're actually probably the most in love people in that grocery store. It's a term of endearment, but it's something different for my ears,
Right. For us, is you know, we have a nickname for it. Everybody has a nickname. It's a very common. We have a very heavyweight joke. Our jokes are very heavy.
Yeah.
And but we adapt it to. We understand. We understand when a joke, even if it sounds really rude, it's just a joke. For people that are not used to, they wouldn't know. But you know, calling people fat, skinny, all this stuff, nobody cares. You know, I grew up in. You know, that's the culture over there. And like I say, sometimes it could be depends on the tone. How you call someone fat, it means aggressive, or it could be just in a form of love.
Yeah. Well, and I there was one day I was traveling from here in Cosquín to Córdoba capital, and I took the colectivo, the bus. And in the same trip, one person, the person who sold me my ticket called me Gorda, and then the bus driver called me Flaca. I was like, which one is it? Am I Gorda or am I Flaca? But that also helped me understand, like, it doesn't actually mean anything.
So they say Shanki. It sounds
Shanki
bad,
or
but
Junkie sometimes.
right.
Yeah.
But you know what? I never knew the word gringo. I never used the word gringo in my life until I came to the U.S.
Oh, yeah.
Never.
Yeah. That's another word where if somebody calls me that word, it depends on how they say it, you know, the tone of their voice. Because on the ship, certain people like from Mexico who I worked with would call me gringa. And it was totally fine. But I've also heard it in ways that are not as nice.
Wow.
So it totally depends on the tone.
Right.
Like you said, it's like calling someone Gorda or Flaca, you know, it just depends on the tone.
Right. But I never really, I never call anybody gringo. That for me was Shankies. And obviously when I come to the US, I learned is Yankee, right? Not Shanky.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I have no idea what's a gringo.
Yeah.
But we have to Google it again. But the word gringo is not you don't call gringo just a person that is white. You call gringo anybody that is a foreigner, someone that is a migrant.
Oh.
That's what I learned. I could be wrong, but I think that's what I searched because I had to understand what was it because I never heard that before. I learned that in the U.S.
Yeah. That is interesting.
And in Argentina, I don't know the Yankee. A Yankee is, you know, it's not everybody's a Yankee in the United States. You know, that's more of a political term, right?
Yeah. Well, I think the term came about during our Revolutionary War with England.
Right.
The English tried to insult us by calling us Yankees.
Right.
But we turned it into a word of pride during that time, kind of like the word boludo is here. They tried to use that as a word to insult people, and they turned it around. The term Yankee, though, did take on different meanings during our Civil War between the Northerners and the Southerners. So the Northerners were the Yankees at that time. But today, if you call someone a Yankee, they'll be like the baseball team, like the New York Yankees. So that's another thing. When people call us Yankees, we're not offended because we're thinking like, what are you talking about? Baseball? What do you mean? Right. Like we're not offended by Yankee.
And I also don't think Argentinians know what it means. They just learn it from, and I will say because we have a massive immigration from English-speaking countries from Europe and England, and I think because of that they probably brought the word in because I don't think the Italians or the Spaniards or maybe even the Germans will know what a Yankee is, and maybe more of a English-speaking person or country like you know United Kingdom would know, you know, and we have many
that's
of those.
A great point. Yeah.
So I don't know how
that's
we got it.
That's a great point.
From.
I wonder if it's the British connection here.
Probably
because
is.
I've noticed a lot of a British connection with Argentinians. Like for example, when anyone here speaks English, I hear more of an English accent. And I'm sure that's because they're learning, you know, English from England because, you know, that's where English is from. But also, I looked up one time the team River Plate.
Yeah.
I was thinking, like, why are those English words if it's a team in Argentina? And I looked it up, and it had to do with the fact that there used to be a lot of British ships here in the harbor in Buenos Aires, and they wanted to kind of like pay homage, kind of honor the British sailors that were living here at that time. So they chose the name River Plate. So I just thought that's so interesting, the connection between England and Argentina instead of, the American connection between U.S. Americans and South Americans. I don't know.
Kate, I grew up where I grew up, it was, there was a big migration, about 3,000 English-speaking migrants that came there. They were from the Irish and UK and a bunch of places, right?
Mm-hmm.
I went to a British school, right? And most of the people there were direct descendant from England, and some of them had an accent when they speak Spanish, but they were teaching Spanish in the morning and they were teaching English in the afternoon. And what's interesting about this, you will find people that they were named Juan Smith or Carlos Brown, and you have all those names, Yeah, I grew up in that kind of area. So depends on where you go in Argentina, you'll find different kind of people, right?
Yeah. Well, even when I spent some time in Buenos Aires, and every time I went to a cafe or something, they spoke English to me. Like pretty much everyone that I interacted with in Buenos Aires at least spoke a little bit of English, usually a lot of English, but it was really interesting because here in Cosquín, I have to speak Spanish every day,
Right.
But so it's interesting.
And I think I took my wife to Argentina. My wife is from the Ukraine, and I took her to Argentina.
Oh, yeah.
And I told her, I said, when you go to Argentina, nobody cares if you're white. Nobody's going to look, there's a white person. That's not going to happen.
Right.
Because a lot of people that are white think that when you go into another country, they're going to get attention. In Argentina, you don't get attention. It's normal to be white. So I'm not saying that we are an Argentina change, but you're just like another person. You're not pressing anyone by being a white person. Just one more person in Argentina. So it's a country you can go be comfortable by having blonde hair and blue eyes. I mean, you're going to get attention from men for sure, but not because they like that kind of person, not because you're white. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Is that true or not for you?
Yeah, I think I have seen, every type of person here. It's not like there's one look to what Argentinians have to be. It's a rainbow of people. So I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. You might get attention because you're a foreigner, because you speak English, and they want to hear you speak English. But it's not a color or not it's not.
Yeah.
So I told when my wife went there, nobody cared. Nobody, you're white, you have blonde. No, nobody cares.
No, yeah.
So you're very safe to go to Argentina as a white person. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
What else? I think I have all the questions that I covered all the questions. Why don't talk about your social media a little bit, because I know you have a social media platform. You're doing pretty good there. And there's another, because I was looking into the stuff you did, and I know you do crafting, right? I saw you showing some of the earrings or whatever the stuff. So talk about those things. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, I didn't make those earrings. I bought them from a woman who lives in Buenos Aires. She has an online shop. And I just thought they were so cute. She sells like little empanada earrings. She has choripan earrings, which were so cute. She's got media luna. So I bought the empanadas, the media lunas, and then she gave me one that is one mate and then one like tray of facturas. It was so cute.
Wow.
So I've been just posting on social media, but I did not come to Argentina thinking, oh, I'm going to be an influencer. I'm going to, get all these views and likes. I didn't do that. I just simply was exploring, and I wanted to learn as much as I could about Argentina, and I started making videos for my family and my friends back home to see what I was doing with my life. And what I found is that Argentinians love when you talk about them. They just are so passionate about their culture. So I think I have more Argentinian followers now than people from the US, which is really fun. But I'm also I have to decide now, do I keep speaking in English or do I keep speaking in Spanish? Because you're right, a lot of people do want to practice their English with me, and they want to listen to my English and, read my subtitles to practice. But I also recognize that I'm here and a lot of people do speak Spanish here, like only Spanish in Córdoba and in Cosquín sometimes. So I'm sort of at that point now where I have to decide which way I go. But it's also really fun to be able to switch sometimes. I'm really proud of how much my English has grown and the fact that I can be bilingual and I can speak Spanglish. A lot of my conversations with people are Spanglish because they ask to practice their English with me. And I say, of course, but can I practice my Spanish with you? So they're speaking English, I'm speaking Spanish, we're mixing the words. It's really fun. And I'm sure somebody from outside of here would look at our conversation like, what the heck are they saying? But it's really fun. But yeah, it's been amazing just sharing my life here and sharing the amazing experiences and people that I've met, and the fact that it resonates with people, and the fact that people continue to welcome me in here. Obviously, I have had haters, but the haters are not in real life. I don't walk down the street and have haters.
Right.
They're only online. So I still really do feel the love from Argentina, and I feel like a Cordobesa now.
Right.
They've welcomed me in, and it's the best feeling ever to feel like you're not an outsider somewhere.
Kate, is Argentina going to be your forever home, or is it's just it's going to be an experience?
Great question. I don't know. I think something about people from the US is you're always asked, like, okay, what is your 5-year plan? What's your 10-year plan? When are you going to get married? When are you going to have kids? When are you going to buy a house? Like, everything is at a certain timeline. And part of what I love about Argentina is I don't have to have a plan. I can just live and enjoy my life. So I don't know. I'm just going to continue enjoying my life, not put any time limits on it, and just see what the future holds. I would love to stay here for as long as I'm welcomed here. I think that's my answer.
That's a good answer. Kate, it was a pleasure to have you. I think
Thank you so
Córdoba
much.
and Argentina is blessed to have you. You have a beautiful
Thank
personality.
you.
Beautiful personality. That's why they like you so much. I think you're a great fit for the Argentinian culture, and I'm glad you're there. You're sharing a little bit of Argentina with the world. So thank you for giving me the opportunity and give me an interview. So that's awesome.
Absolutely. Thank you for chatting with me. Give my love to my country and to the people of Lafayette.
Oh,
and I'll do the same for your country.
We do. I'm talking about you tomorrow. We're going now. Every Friday we're going to have a drink with my coworkers. So I'm going to be talking about you tomorrow for sure.
Well, tell them I say hello, or tell them hola from me.
We do. Thank you, Kate.
Well, thank you.